Yeah. So allow me to just share my screen briefly so that we can continue. So I don't know if you could confirm if my screen is visible.
Not yet. Not yet. Probably there's some lag in. Yes, it's now visible, so you can proceed. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so as I've said, I think we are just going to like dive straight into it. Yeah, so the overview will be just introduction to the Kenya EMR Lab Manifest and why why should we use this this module. And I'm also going to kind of like at higher level show you the main features that exist, and lastly the requirements for implementation. But then my colleague Miriam will come in and just now show us practically how those features work and how the proper workflow should be. Yeah, so just to begin about the Lab Manifest. So the Lab Manifest is one of the modules in Kenya EMR that has been designed to offer that seamless integration between the Kenya EMR deployed at the facility level and the national VL EID platform to enable the remote electronic logging of samples from the facility to the reference lab for the purposes of testing. Okay, and this application can be accessed just via going to Kenya EMR. Then you locate homepage. One of those apps is written as Lab Manifest. So that is where the module is found. So why is it important? Why do we need to use the Lab Manifest module? So as I've stated, one is to achieve the seamless remote logging of samples at the collection labs. So we can use this particular technology to perform the, to develop or to create a lab a sample manifest, and then electronically submit that to the testing lab. And when the results are done, when the results are out for the viral loads, then the same module is able to go to the EID database, pick the results for specific patient, and save that in the patient record. So if you look at it, the module kind of eliminates human interaction between the point of sending the manifest or logging the samples and receiving the results. So we don't have, we kind of eliminate the human interaction in terms of manually entering the viral load results that typically would always sometimes would lead to typographical errors. So this sorry. So this module ensure that there is consistency between the result that was posted at the testing lab and the result that we receive at the facility level. Again, also the facility is able to track the status of each sample at their level. They'll be able to tell if the results are out or if the results are not ready. So different statuses, as we'll be seeing during the practical session, the facility will be able to see that. And the use of this module also increases efficiencies by reducing the paperwork in the lab. And I think that is automatic because whenever you use a system, one of the goals is to eliminate paperwork. Again, also in terms of data reliability, you are sure that the result that has been received is the result that was posted on the other side, on the testing lab, because at that point, there is no human interaction. And I guess I've already spoken to that. So some of the Some of the main features of the lab manifest module include the ability to create the manifest. We'll see that ability to add samples to the manifest based on what the clinical team have posted. Again, also as you create or as you draw the samples and prepare the samples, the module gives you an ability to print out QR codes or barcodes that then you can stick on the vacuum tubes. So then you don't have to manually label them with your own hands. So it's kind of easy to read, and it makes it easier so that the lab that is going to receive this sample is not confused as to who this sample belongs to. Okay. Then I've talked about the feature for monitoring the sample status. We'll see that. And again, also the ability to stream in the result, retrieve the result from the testing lab and automatically post it in the patient record. That is a very important feature for the module. Again, also, now you are able to identify the patients that whose orders were made, but then the samples were not collected, so that the facility can intervene in terms of ensuring the samples are taken, or in terms of tracking these patients where they got lost in, so then we can have their samples tested. So those are some of the basic features that exist in that module. But again, also moving into the future based on the feedback that we continuously receive, the module still will be improved to include ability to cache the manifest that whose status are complete. Because if you look at the list of the previous manifest, the list keeps on growing and it becomes longer and longer and longer. So in terms of managing the resources, we could have an ability to cache the previous completed manifest, have them stored elsewhere so that we will reference them if there is need, but then we ensure that we focus on the active manifest. Again, also, as part of the feedback that has been received, there will be an ability to search a client within the existing lab manifest. So a manifest can be so long. If you create them, if you add samples into the manifest, it can be so long, and might be very difficult to know if a patient has been added, or a specific sample for a specific patient has been added to the manifest. So the ability to search for that client will really be very key and will be very useful in terms of using that module. Again, also, for the samples that were rejected or samples that are missing, there'll be kind of like a small report that will give you a summary of the rejected records or missing, so that immediate action can be taken. Yeah, so as we keep on receiving feedback, we will continue to improve and enhance the module, so then it can really address the user's needs. So what do you need for this module, for it to work in your facility, for it to work in your lab? What exactly do you need? So one of the key things that you need basically is the stakeholder buy-in. Very, very important. And when you talk about the stakeholder, we're talking about everyone that will be affected by, that is being affected positively or negatively by this module. Okay, so all of them have to really speak one language, and it has to really, they have to be sensitive in terms of the importance of this module. So then they can have that buy-in and support the implementation of the module. The other one is a functional Kenya instance at the facility. So this module works in, it exists within Kenya EMR. So that means you can only use it if you are implementing Kenya EMR. And when I'm talking about Kenya EMR, I'm talking about updated Kenya EMR, a version that has the module inside it. So most of the time you have to ensure that your instance, your Kenya EMR instance is up to date, so that you can continuously enjoy some of these things. Again, at a very minimum, you may want to have some availability of internet access. This will ensure that you are able to transmit the manifest, and also you are also able to receive the viral load results that are coming in from the reference, from the testing labs. And when we talk about internet, in this case, it might not be constant availability of internet, but you can just have the internet available when you are creating your manifest and you want to submit it. And also when you feel that the turnaround time for the viral load is due, and now you are able to receive the results, you can plug your internet in and then receive your results. Now that is based on the turnaround time of the lab and also for the for the reference on the testing labs. The other requirement, which is key, is knowledge in terms of training. So in terms of training, the lab staff needs to be trained on how to use this module and how it affects their workflow. That also goes for the clinical staff, so that they also can create their orders, their test orders through the system, through the EMR. So then that workflow can be harmonized. So it is really important that when you are implementing this, you ensure you build the capacity of the lab personnel as well as the clinical team. And of course, there's supposed to be that ongoing technical support just in case of anything. And that can happen via the partner, or it can happen through the Palladium service desk, where you're able to receive ongoing technical support on various issues. So for the technical requirements, on the EMR for the module to work, one, you need to have very good configuration. So when you are talking about configuration, there are key configurations around specifying the lab type. The lab type could be either the labware or the chai. We'll see that when Marianne comes on board. You need to have those endpoints correctly configured. You need to have the two schedulers turned on and correctly configured for the intervals. So there's the scheduler for pushing and also the scheduler for pulling the results. So you need to have those correctly configured. Yeah, so in summary, that is what you need technically to implement the lab manifest. So unless there is an urgent question, I think as instructed by Songok, I'll just invite Marianne to take us to demonstrate for us how the module works. So then after that, feel free to now ask questions. So Marianne, you can take it away.
Thank you, Tieno. As I put up my screen, kindly confirm I'm audible, and also my screen is visible when I put it up. My name is Marianne Mwangi. I'm going to take us through this particular session for a practical overview of Kenya EMR using the lab manifest feature.
Yes, Marianne, you are loud and clear, though I'm not able to see your screen yet.
Confirm my screen is visible from your end.
Yes, I can see.
Okay, so we'll start off from where Otieno has left off, looking at the prerequisites or requisites that we need to use this particular feature within Kenya EMR, that is the lab manifest. So for the module to work in a facility setup, different team members need to play different roles, and I'll be highlighting the roles of each as we move along. And the first person who plays a very vital role to ensure that all the prerequisites are well set in the system is the facility system admin. And this can be done from within Kenya EMR, from the homepage, accessing the developer module, legacy admin UI. Then among the maintenance section, we get to advanced settings. And what we are seeking to do here is to ensure that now we correctly set a list of endpoints within Kenya EMR, depending on the lab that we are using. So we will set different endpoints depending on the lab system that we are using or that is being used by the reference lab. And it can either be Chai or Labware, depending on the particular lab that we are using. So for this particular section, I'll just demonstrate a few of the endpoints. I will not do for all. So we control and find. For lab system identifier. And now this is where we are supposed to specify exactly the name of the lab system that we are using in that particular facility. And the only options that are accepted here is either Chai or Labware. And they are both case sensitive. So it's good just to copy them the way they are. And then from there now we configure for the token, which is specific for a particular lab. And the various endpoints for the receiving server and the server that is also sending the manifests. Then of note, we also need to confirm that after setting up all the endpoints, we make sure that we save and exit from this particular page. Then after that, we need to ensure that there are two key processes that you need to ensure that they are started from the scheduler, manage scheduler. Ensure that you look at the push lab requests and pull viral results are started, and the schedule intervals that have been set are specific according to how you want now to be running, it to be running. For example, if you set the push lab request to run after every 3 seconds, it's also good to confirm the last time it executed. You may find that the configurations are well set. You have started the process and configured very well for the schedule, how often it should be either pushing manifests or even checking for results, depending on the turnaround time that you have set. But the last execution time may have happened a very long time ago. For example, so ensure once you check those two processes, below you can start them. And when you come back, you'll find that now my two processes, that is push lab request to lab and pull viral results, I've enabled them and they have started, and they will run after every 30 seconds, after every 30 seconds, and they have been started as at today, April 2023. If for any reason you're not able to push a manifest or you're not able to pull results, these are the two processes that somebody needs to come and check. So again, I will not go into details because this is done by a technical personnel at the facility, and they will have been trained on what to do. And in case you are not able to do these particular configurations, you can always seek assistance through our service desk. And I'm sure the contacts for our service desk have been shared on the chat area. So let's get into the practical bit now of how to use this particular lab manifest. So that was the first team member who is supposed now to ensure that all the configuration settings have been set for us to be able to use the lab manifest. Then the second team members within a facility are the clinicians. So as the clinical team reviews patients, they do request various lab tests. And for our case, the clinicians will request viral tests to be done for some specific patients. And we can be able to do this within the Kenya EMR system to order for lab tests. And we can be able to access lab requests, be able to do this from the lab request module or from the clinician module. So we're going to do this demonstration using both, but for now, we're going to start off from the clinician module. So a clinician will search for a particular patient who has walked in that they are seeing. So I'm going to randomly search for a patient. And I'm going to use Bilishi as our test patient. And they can check them in for a visit. So of note, this particular patient has to be on ART because we want to request for a viral test for them. And they are also due for a viral test. They do not have any active viral test that is pending. So from the clinician module, we can be able to access lab orders from the provider actions. And because of time, our interest is just to create a lab request. So we are going to select the lab order option, which will now take us to the lab orders module. So here we can be able to view any active orders for these particular patients that had been requested before. We can create a new order, we can enter lab results, and we can see previous lab orders. So once we create a new order, and after some time, we're able to do this, the entire cascade within the lab manifest up to the end. And we're able now to see the pool of results back. At the Enter Lab Results tab is where we'll come and confirm whether after some time, depending on how we have set our turnaround time, the results have mapped back. So let us follow the cascade. We're going to create a new order. We are interested in a blood test for HIV monitoring. And for HIV monitoring, we're interested in a HIV viral tests. We're going to confirm that. Then we can request this particular test either today, or we can just backdate it to a date in March. For example, let's say 15th March. Then why is the clinician now ordering for this particular test? Maybe it's just a routine test. And the reason is maybe routine. The last time this person was tested was a year ago, according to the guidelines, and we can save. So the order agency is also routine, and the reason is the same. There's no other reason, and we can save this particular order. So when we do that, it takes us back now to the active order page, where we can see all the active orders that have been requested for this particular patient by a particular clinician. Within the same time duration, you can find that another clinician within the facility also orders a viral test for another patient. So we're going to order another one for another patient, so that if I was a bit fast, you'll be able to follow through the process. Let me use another test patient. So we can as well use this one. Sorry, I'm randomly searching for a patient. You can use Jadel as our patient. So the first patient we had requested through the clinician module. Now this time we can also use the lab request module. We have already searched for the patient and we got confirmed the patient is on ART, they're actually due for a viral load and they do not have any active lab orders. So we can be able to create a new lab order for them. Again, we're interested in a blood sample for HIV monitoring, particularly for a HIV viral load test. And again, we can backdate this to sometime in March. Let's say March 22nd. That is when this particular test was requested by a clinician. And the reason was maybe it was a targeted request. Reason maybe the patient had some symptoms of clinical failure that the clinician may want to confirm. So now you'll notice under the order urgency, it has changed to start, which means immediate. It's a sort of a high emergency viral load test. Again, we are confirming for clinical failure and we save. So for our patient Jadel, you'll find they have an active lab order for a viral load test requested by a clinician, and the order reason is clinical failure. So that means now our clinicians have been able to request for a viral load tests. And we can get as many requests as possible from different clinicians. Now, the third actor now is the lab person or the lab technician. This team member now will be able to view and receive all the lab requests that have been done by the different clinicians in a particular facility. And they primarily use now the lab module or the lab manifest module. So once they receive all the lab requests done for viral load tests, traditionally they would manually document the viral load requisition forms, and then they would conduct phlebotomy or draw blood for the viral load testing from the patients, store the samples, and send them to the processing lab at a particular time, depending on how a facility usually sends their samples. Now, this has been made simpler by the system, whereby the lab personnel can create a lab manifest within the system that is sort of replacing the viral load requisition form. They can be able now to collect or draw samples from the requested lab orders. They will be able to edit the lab manifest, print samples, labels, and print even the manifests. And so let's take a look on how this can be done within Kenya EMR. So our lab technician or lab personnel team will access now the lab manifest module within Kenya EMR, this particular module. So from this page, we will first of all ignore the manifest status. We'll come back to that in a few and just concentrate on this particular homepage where we have the manifest list, and they can be able to add a new manifest. So adding a new manifest is now like we are creating a template where we're going to add all those particular samples that we are collecting, and at the end of a particular period, we're going to transition or transport them to the reference lab. So we'll start by looking at now the lab manifest form, starting with the manifest date range. And we have two particular dates that are very important. That is the start date and the end date. The start date, this is the date the lab team starts receiving the lab orders from the clinical team. From the previous period where they had already shipped a particular set of samples, now when they are now starting to draw blood for patients, which they have received new viral load requests by the clinician, that would be the start date. So for our case, we're going to use March 1st for demonstration purposes. And now the end date, this is the anticipated date as the last date to receive and work on the particular lab orders that are coming from the clinicians before we ship them for processing to the reference lab. So again, we're going to work with March 31st as the last day. Then our manifest type, for now, we're only working with viral load. We may add in future, we may have different manifest types, but for this particular, for now, we're only using for the manifest for viral load. Then we need to add some dispatch details. Dispatch dates. Now, this is again the anticipated date of samples transportation or shipment to the reference lab. And this date has been made a mandatory field. So there is no way we cannot be able to add this particular date. And as we've said, it is the anticipated last date when we expect either the courier, the raider, or the person who comes to collect samples from our facility is going to come and pick these particular samples that we have already worked on, that the clinician had requested between 1st of March to 31st of March. Then the courier name, maybe we usually use a particular rider. We can call them Marcos riders. Then the particular person we will hand over to, maybe the person who usually comes to collect the samples is called Julius Kyoko. And then you'll find that we also need to give particular details about our facility, and the system will auto-pick these details from the information that you already have as configured in the system. For county, sub-county, where the facility is, for this particular test instance, we're using Dalu Health Center, which is in Narok County, Narok sub-county. The facility email as displayed, facility phone contact, either for the clinician in charge or the facility in charge of the medsup, or the person who is in charge whose contacts have been given as the facility contact. Then the particular clinician name, this can be the clinician who is in charge or the clinician who is on duty for that particular week, and their particular phone contacts, and as well as the lab personnel phone contact. Again, this can be the particular lab personnel who's in charge for the week or the lab personnel who's in charge overall. Then we get to the manifest status. Now, the status of the manifest will change over time. From the time we start raising this particular manifest, up to the time we dispatch the samples. So we can either have draft, ready to send, or on hold. And we'll be defining what each means. If I set it to draft, it means whatever information that I've put in this particular lab manifest form may change over time. Remember, we've given it a range of between 1st March to 31st March, but this is dependent on how sample transportation takes place in a facility. It can be a range of a duration of a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, depending on the facility settings and how samples are actually transported or shipped to the reference lab in a particular site. So that means the information that we have here, if we set our manifest status to draft, means we are not yet ready to send our samples, and we can change some information, and we may need to wait or to add several samples between the different time ranges that we've given here. If we set our manifest ready to send, it means we have added all the samples collected from the various lab orders that came from the different clinicians in our facility from 1st March to 31st March. We have added all of them, and the information inside the manifest is correctly captured, and we are now ready to ship or dispatch the samples, and we will review this in a moment. Then on hold, status means to show there is either a specific reason a particular manifest has not yet been submitted, maybe a sample needs to be redrawn, and we are waiting for the client to come, or we need, for one reason or the other, again, we may review this, we will still review this in a moment. So for now, for this particular demonstration, we're going to set our manifest status to draft, and we will create the lab manifest. So when we do that, you'll notice that from the home page or from the page of our manifest module, among the manifest lists, we have now our manifest that we have just added. We can be able to visualize the date, the start date, and the end date. The type of manifest is a variable manifest. The courier, our courier is Marcos Riders, and the lab person contact. And the status of our manifest is set to draft, and you will notice that it has 0 samples attached to it. And our anticipated dispatch date is 31st March. Now, among the things that you can be able now to do for this particular manifest are under the action tab, where we can be able to edit this manifest. If you select on edit, it just takes you back to the form where we were filling or creating the manifest. Apologies for my system, it's a bit slow. So it takes you back to the lab manifest, and you can be able to edit lab manifest. Then if there are any changes within the week that you may need to make, maybe you had captured something wrongly, you can be able to edit and save changes. So you'll notice there's a difference between now the editing view from the view where we were creating or adding a new manifest. Then the other thing we can be able to do is to view the manifest that we have just created. So once we select view, we can still be able to visualize our manifest details here on top, and we can still be able to access the edit page from this section. In case we realize maybe there's something still we need to change, maybe the clinician in charge or the lab personnel details or something of the sort, or even the raider who has come to collect the sample, or even maybe we are changing the courier to a different one. Now, of interest is that now what actions we can be able to do to this particular manifest. You'll notice we will need to see whether there are samples displayed in the manifest. For this case, we do not have any samples yet displayed in the manifest. What is available though is the active requests or the various lab orders that we have been able to add. For example, we added for 2 patients, that was Jadel and Bilishi. And there were also maybe some other lab requests that had been done for patients within the month of March, because we had taken a very long date range, 1st March to 31st March. And now we can be able to add them to the manifest. So what we are taking is this particular patient will be now a sample from the lab that will be added to the manifest. So we can add the first one, select add to manifest. And then there are some details that we need to update. For example, looking at the type of sample, this is done by the lab personnel, frozen plasma. The date the sample is, it's for March. And let's see on 20. Be the same date, 23rd March. And we can save. And then you'll get an alert saying that our sample or our request has been successfully added to the manifest. And when that happens, you'll find that now among the samples in the manifest, our sample will appear there, and we'll be able to tell the patient, the CCC number, the type of sample that has been taken from the lab, the date it was requested, and the status, meaning it is still pending. Nothing has been done yet to this particular sample, and the result is not yet ready. And if the result is not ready, that means also the result date is not available. Then we can also add for another patient. Let's add for 2 more. Again, frozen plasma. Allow me to be a bit quick here. Okay, as you're doing this, you may encounter errors if you have not documented information about these patients properly, especially for some of the requirements that is needed even at the reference lab. For example, here, the error we have is we could not add to the manifest because documentation of patient identifier or regimen is required. So that means we go back to this particular patient's records, check if from the registration, if they have a patient, the patient identifier is correct, and the regimen line has been well captured. So for now, we will not add this particular patient, not unless we go back to their records and be able to cross-check that. And you can even be able to tell from here, the patient identifier, the CCC number does not conform to the set standard of 10 digits, starting with the current MFL codes and so on. So this is one of the things, or one of the reasons why we will not be able to add this particular sample to our manifest, not unless you go back and correct this. So let us use Bilishi as our patient. And we save. And that gives us an alert that we have successfully been able to add, and you'll find that now they will also be among the patients samples in the manifest, added to the manifest. We can try adding one more. So you'll find that now samples in our manifest, we have 3 samples, and all of them have a pending status and their results are not ready. So even within these samples that we added in the manifest, we can be able to do 2 things. One is to either remove a sample, remove this particular sample from this manifest. If the lab team feel maybe there's something that has happened, they may need to redraw blood, maybe from the separation something happened, or maybe the vacuum tube dropped and something happened and they needed to either redraw or call back the patient and so on. And it may take much longer time that will hinder now shipment of the other samples. So we can remove that or remove and later add on to another particular manifest. The other action that you can be able to do is to print the label. If we select print label, I hope this is going to be visible. What it does, it gives us a barcode showing the patient's CCC number, their name, and the date that we have added this particular sample to be used now. This has been resized to fit the small vacuum tube so that now we can be able to just attach it to the vacuum tubes. And this will be now either scanned from the reference lab to be able to get the particular patient details. That is their name, their CCC number, their date of birth, the regimen that they are on, and so on, and also the very justification reason as to why this particular VL is being requested for at the processing lab. So allow me to go back. So when you go back to the manifest list, now you'll find that we have different status for our manifest. We have draft. The draft, that means any manifest that we are not ready to send yet will be among this particular section of draft manifest status. And we can see that now, if we cross-check again the manifest that we've just raised, you will realize that what has changed among the, from the status, we can now see that we have total samples 3, which has changed from 0. And we can still be able to view and edit our manifest from this particular place. So when we are ready and we are comfortable now, we have added all the samples that have been requested by our clinicians from 1st March, 31st March. We have all the patients have come through the lab. We've drawn their blood, we've taken the sample, we've added to the manifest. We can come back to our manifest and edit so that now we change the status from draft to ready to send. But before we do that, again, cross-check all the details that you have captured to be correct. The dispatch details, address for the facility, contact for the clinician name and the lab personnel. If true, then we change the manifest status from draft to ready to send. And we save changes. Now, when you do that, you will notice that when you go back to the lab manifest homepage, you'll find that the manifest we've just created is no longer there because it is not, the status has now changed from draft to ready to send. So if we select the ready to send manifest status, that is where we'll be able to find our manifest. Unfortunately, my system is taking some time to load. So we'll still come back to that and see where it is. So if you have any manifest on hold within the facility and you select the manifest status as on hold, this is where you'll be able to find them. And if after a particular time now you're able to rectify what was wrong, and you're able to move on with the manifest. You can be able to view and either add samples if they were there, and complete the entire cascade up to the point where we are ready to send. Then for submitted manifest status, this is where now any manifest that we selected as ready to send, and we had internet connectivity within our facility, and it was sent, we had the lab technician within our facility, or the system admin had been able to configure the endpoints correctly, and we have internet connectivity, then you will find that it automatically sends now the manifest, and you will no longer find it under the draft, under the ready to send, but it will be visible under submitted. And that's why you'll find that for the particular manifest that we were using, this one for 1st March to 31st March, now is among the submitted manifests, where we have submitted a total of 3 samples. Now, from this particular section, we can be able now to either just view, we can no longer edit this particular manifest. So when you select view, now you'll find that we can still be able to print labels for the samples we have in the manifest, and we can now be able to print the manifest itself. And when we select that, what it does, the system generates for you the very road request form that shows now all the details that you have just captured about this manifest. That is the facility details in terms of the facility name, the MFL code, the contact details of the facility, where the facility is located in terms of the county, sub-county, and the people we can contact in that particular facility as we had captured. That is the clinician phone, the clinician name, their phone number, the lab person name, and their phone number as well. That is the particular facility lab details. Now, for the patients that we've added, the 3 patients, now we can be able to visualize some of their details in terms of the patient name, their CCC numbers, their date of birth, their sex. And if it's a female, we can also be able to pick from the system whether they are pregnant, breastfeeding, or none of the above in terms of the code. So for this particular patient, one of the patients was a female who is Jadel. They are not pregnant, so it has picked 3 as the code for none of the above. Then the sample, we can also be able to tell the sample type, the date of collection, the date the sample was separated, and the date the particular patient started the ART, the current regimen that they are on, and the date they were initiated on, the current regimen, and the justification code for this particular viral request. So for Jadel, we had justification code 3, for Bilishi 1, for Ruto 3. So 3, if I'm not wrong, should be clinical failure. 1 is just for routine. So we can be able now at the facility level to confirm the information that we have is correct, print this viral requisition form and attach it now to the samples that are going to the reference lab. Sorry. So for this, to be able to do this at the facility, we'll still emphasize that you need to review the Kenya EMR EID Very Integration Feature SOP that we have in the displayed chat area that is available from our knowledge base, where you can be able now to access the stepwise instructions on how to set up and to use the lab manifest feature. And if for any reason you need assistance to configure the settings for lab manifest, or you have configured and you may need someone to cross-check or to confirm for you, kindly reach out to our service desk. And again, I'm sure the contacts have been shared in the chat area. So we've come to the end of this particular session. And now before I end it there, again, going back to the manifest lists, once we have submitted and we can be able to visualize, maybe after 10 days, the reference lab has been able to process the very good results. And you will find that now our manifest, those that have complete results will be displayed among complete results. And those that have incomplete results, maybe some of the samples have results, some of the results are not yet ready, will be among now the incomplete results. And we will be able to track all these manifests using the manifest ID. And if we come to the ones that have complete results, we can always go back to that particular patient and confirm now from the lab requests among the just allow me to use one particular patient. Let me see one of the patients that I have used. Sorry. So if I was to look at Bilishi, assuming that now after some time, the sample has been processed and the lab results are back, we can always go back to the lab orders section, either through the clinician module or the lab requests module. And we can now be able to check whether we will be able to see the lab results entered here. So you'll find that the active order will move from this particular page when we have the lab results ready, and you will find now the results have already marked for this particular patient, showing either the number of copies for the viral results and the date that this particular results was able to mark from the lab reference lab to the EMR directly. So with that, we've come to the end of this particular session, and I'll hand it back to Bernard.
Thanks, Miriam. I would pass it over to Sunguk.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adeline, not Adeline, sorry, Mary Ann, and thank you very much, Otieno, for taking us through the first part, and Mary Ann for taking us through the second part. And I think then that really wraps up. Few take-home messages. Most of the questions that we've been asking in as far as how to keep track of our samples is concerned, and for me, I find it pretty easy to be able to track your results right from the lab. I can see some of the questions that have been asked on the wall. One of them is issues around whether we'll still be able to get the batch numbers and such like things. So thank you very much once more, Mary Ann. So I think we are ready to just quickly take a few questions. So we still have some time. It's about 26 minutes past 3. So we still have some time to take up some questions. And I think of importance is the fact that there's some few requirements that you may need to check within your EMR to enable the lab manifest to function, or to enable seamless exchange of information between the lab and Kenya EMR, of course, via the lab manifest. So right, so I want to just quickly check whether we have some questions on the chat. Just give me a second. All right. Good. Yeah. So so we have a few questions, but I'm glad that most of them have been responded to. Yeah, actually, all of them have been responded to. I don't know whether, Otieno, you've been able to respond to. There's a last question, and I can see Patrick's hand is up. So I'll give you an opportunity, Patrick, to ask your question. So there was a question. The first question was whether the lab manifest is distinct from the remote login for viral load, which is done by the lab team. And I think that was answered. the lab manifest module in our Kenya EMR shows that we could not add to the manifest. I think this is around upgrading of Kenya EMR and that the upgrading and the configuration, and I think that was responded to. Yeah, so I don't want to go through all of them because clearly I've seen that all of them have been responded to. There was a question from Patrick. I don't know that has been responded to about the error that he's been receiving, and I think that was like the second or the third question I've seen about service providers receiving error messages. Like the one from Patrick is 400 and 500. And according to him, they're very common. Probably the Otieno or Marihan would comment on this. What would be the cause of that? What would be the cause and what would be the remedy? Because I think that's the most important bit. However, as I usher in Otieno to respond, or Mary Ann, whoever would be taking up that, let me mention that we kindly remember we also have an help desk, a toll-free number. Whenever you have any issues, always utilize those channels of those means of communication, so that we are able to respond to you as soon as we can. Otieno, you want to take the error message one, or you've responded to that?
Thanks, Songok, and thanks, Patrick, for the question. So I think the errors 400 and 500 are associated with the HTTP. So much of the time it's about the resource, the HTTP resource. So I think my advice would be that whenever you hit some such errors, kindly just reach out to our service desk, where we will be able to just look at the exact issue and advise you accordingly, or we'll be able to help you resolve. But most of the time, there are 400 and 500 are associated with the HTTP.
Okay.
Yes.
So Otieno, while on that, there's a question. One of the participants is asking, under normal circumstances, when you're doing your login, a batch number is normally generated. So the question he was asking, or the participant was asking, is whether it's still necessary to now generate the lab. I mean, to generate the batch number. Okay, I don't know if I'm getting this correctly. When doing remote login in the lab, it normally generates batch number. Is it now? Yeah, I think there's some letters that are missing. Is it now necessary with the lab manifest procedure? So basically the question is around a generation of the batch numbers. With the lab manifest, do we still generate batch numbers, or that is done away with? That's the question. And then there's also a question from thinking you can probably maybe take all this. There's a question from, I think there's a question asked by Peter. Yeah, you can also take the question from asked by Peter. One of the remaining manual processes in the viral loads. Sample networking is when working samples for shipment, you are required to log in the reference lab to pick the allocated batch numbers. And remember, the batch numbers are allocated erratically, such that clients in one manifest may have different batch numbers. Is it possible for Kenya EMR to pick these up? So probably maybe Otieno can take those two, and then I'll allow Maloba, I think his hand was up, I'll allow him to probably and ask his question. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, once again, thanks, Songok. Yeah, so the issue, I think those two questions are related. They're all talking about the batch numbers. So right now, we don't have the batch number being generated by the EMR, but this is one of the feedbacks that we already received, and it is something that our devs are working on. So in the coming releases, you'll be able to see the EMR generating the batch numbers. So just to answer the question, it's not there right now, so it remains a manual process, but it's a feature that is coming up very soon. I've seen the question from Mwanzuka commenting that the labels are coming up horizontally instead of vertically. So we'll have to check on that as well. I don't know if there's anyone else who has had that experience, but when we tested, I think it was just wrapping very nicely around the vacutina tubes. But I think it's something that we can go back and check. Yeah, then there was the question around the null something, if I can scroll up. I don't know if yeah, the shipping ID is null. So for this, it's supposed to be captured if you are sending your samples to Cambridge Lab, using the labware. So it is only required for the labware. It is not required for any other lab. Yeah. So if your system is configured for the labware, then you'll be able to enter the shipping ID. But if you are using the CHAI as your endpoint, then you don't need it. So that's why for this instance, it comes up as null, because I think Marianne was set for CHAI. Yeah. I think that's pretty much the questions I could see. Over to you, Songok.
All right, thank you, Otieno. I'd seen Patrick Maloba's hand was up at some point. I don't know whether, yeah, Patrick, I've given you the mic. Go ahead.
Thanks, Songok. So maybe my to Bernard and the team. So earlier, we're on version 18.4.2, whether the manifest was on draft or ready to send, you could be able to print that manifest. So basically, I don't know if you still have anything at under draft.
Yeah. Okay.
So that,
you can just,
so maybe you can give a reason as to why it was removed, and if it's possible to get it back, given some of our sites are delivering samples to a hub. So currently the only option is to change it to ready to send to get that printed out so that the rider can go with the manifest. When the real sense is the sample will be sent to next week, maybe on Wednesday. So the process of collecting one sample and sending it to the AMPAT site, it gets the facility with a lot of paperwork, of which each has just one sample. If it's possible, you can add that print under draft so that it's printed and shared. So maybe I don't know what was the reason as to why it was removed, so that we might not be putting it back for and causing more problems. Thank you.
all right. Otieno, probably maybe you could quickly respond to that. Why probably it was removed from the draft section, and I think he has detailed the reason as to why. So as to why probably they would want it back. That's what Maloba has suggested. I don't know what you would say about that, Otieno.
Yeah, thank you, Maloba, for the question. I think it's funny because I think it's a question of trying to fill a hole and you end up digging another. So the reason for this, for moving the print functionality to ready to send, was because most labs were forgetting to go back and set the status of their manifest to send. So then you end up, you realize that the samples and the manifest were getting to the reference lab, and there was nothing coming from the EMR. So they have received the samples, they have received the manifest, then they don't know what to do with it because somebody did not set the status to send. So the manifest was not sent to the reference lab. So that was the main reason why it was moved to the ready to send, so that as you only print when the system is sure that the samples or the manifest has been submitted. So I think I'm getting where you're coming from, and it seems like it might want a bit of review so that we see what can work for both the facilities, that the labs that are getting samples from other labs. I think you call them the hubs. Yeah, so I think we may just review this in light of that new revelation, but that was the main reason why it was moved.
Okay, thank you very much, Otieno. I don't know that there's any other question. Yes, Lucas, you can unmute and go ahead, ask your question. We still have some time before we wrap up.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the system is getting easier by the day. From the beginning, I think it was sounding Greek. Some of the sentiments I got from facilities, and I think a colleague has already asked the same question, was there was a feeling like the manifest is developed from the clinical point of view, so that when they are doing their work, it comes when the manifest is already done. But again, now we are learning from today that the manifest is created at the lab point. So I'm just making that statement for you to confirm if that is true. So that we take whatever comes from the clinical point as a request or a lab order. So they just do request, and the request is viral load, which we are able to see against each of the client they have requested or ordered for. Then now we collect the samples, and then we create a manifest for the samples that we have collected for the period under consideration. Now, one of the question I have is currently the NASCOP has already reviewed the viral load request forms to conform to the justification, the new justifications and the codes. Is this something that we are alive to, and we will update together so that we are not creating any loophole when the NASCOP will also update what is in the EID VL dashboards? The second question, clarification is on, I'm seeking is on, you were talking about chai, and then you were talking about, was it labware or what? There's a term you are using, and I think to me that is still confusing, because we are used to our regional testing labs by name. So if I am sending my viral load samples to KNH, for example, or Kemri Kisumu lab, for example, how do I connect during the manifest creation so that it is reflecting in that lab? Because that is one of the challenges we have got. Some facilities just pick the sample sent to the testing lab. The testing lab were not able to visualize those samples, so then they were rejected. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucas. I think the first one was just a comment, but I would expect Otieno to just do another follow-up, whether it is true that the lab manifest will be created from the lab or from the clinical desk. And then the issue around viral load, the cutoffs. I know the cutoffs has been changed as per the guidelines that were released sometimes late last year. And then also seeking for clarification on the comment you made about the labware. So probably maybe you may need to make it clear so that they understand the differences there. So Otieno, very quickly, you can probably clarify that.
All right, thanks, Ngok, and thanks, Linus, for the question. I think for the first comment you made is very correct, that the manifest is created in the lab. The orders are done from the clinical side. So I don't think I want to comment further on that, because I think you are pretty much on point. I think then you've talked about the revisions by NASCOP. Unless, I don't know, maybe if I check, I think that could be part of the, and Songoku, you can also chime in if I'm not correct.
Yes, I will.
Part of the new tools that came out. I'm not sure if those have already been updated on the EMR. I can check on that. But we are working very closely with with NASCOP. So in case there is any change or revision on any of the tools that requires us to change or update it in the system, be sure that we'll be able to do that. So if it is not already there, then be sure that it is coming. The update is also coming on the EMR. As for the different terminologies around the CHAI and the labware, I'm sorry to have caused that confusion. So every reference lab is using a particular system. So there are labs that are using the CHAI, the system that was developed by CHAI. And then there are labs that are using the systems that have been developed by the labware. Yeah, so for every facility, depending on which reference lab that you are using, if you look at the guideline on how to use the lab manifest, there are particular endpoints that have been provided by each lab. So you don't need to care whether it is a CHAI or labware. You'll find the configurations in that document, so that if you're sending your samples to an HRL, then you'll see that there are different configurations that you need to make. If you're sending your samples, let's say to Cambridge, Kisumu, or Rampa, in the same document, you'll find that there are different configurations that you need to use. So I don't think you need to worry about the labware or the CHAI, but just know that your system will be linked or will be configured based on the system that your reference lab is using. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Otieno. I think one comment about the guidance on the cutoffs for the viral load. I think I should have commented that even before I handed over to Otieno, but yeah. So I think there was guidance that we hold on a bit, and I think Otieno has already said that one of the things that we are also looking out for is to roll out the new tools. So once we roll out the new tools, that has already been factored in, and I can't really remember. There was that we were supposed to have moved ahead to effect the changes in the EID and viral load database. I don't know whether Faith has joined in, because I would really wish to allow her to comment. I don't know. Let me just quickly check whether Faith is in, so that she can. Apparently, I'm not seeing her. Faith Ngare, I don't know whether you're in. If you're in, kindly raise your hand. Yeah, because I remember there was some guidance. There was some guidance from the care treatment team that we wait. Oh yeah, okay. Faith is in. She's appearing as Franklin. I understand why. Faith, kindly go ahead and comment about the viral loads, the cutoffs, the communication on the viral loads. Let me just. Yes, Faith, go ahead.
Hi, Franklin.
Hi, Faith.
You can hear me. This is another Franklin for today.
It's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so the question is about the use of the new guidelines definition for suppression.
Yeah, the cutoffs for viral loads. Yeah.
Okay, so the response is we have worked on it on a test site. We are awaiting to present it to the technical working group for care and treatment, as well as the lab. That means that's the lab clinical interface. Once we get the approval to make it live, and then you will see the changes in the EIDVL website. But otherwise, it's work that has already been done. It's just pending approval of the technical working group. So for now, we still keep to our previous definitions until that time when that team allows us to go live, and then we can be able to adapt. But the way it has been done, you will still have above 1,000 and above 200. So depending on which category you would like to define, we have kept it to make sure that, because remember there are periods when we had not adapted the new guidelines, and you will still need data comparison for the past. So we will still have the above 1,000 mark for the period that will be guided by the technical working group. And then now we will have above 200 for again, the period that will be guided by the technical working group. So hopefully in the next 2 weeks, once the TWG gives us a go ahead, we will be able to adapt the new changes as well as share the new form, which is just seated on the site, but pending, not ready for use now until that happens. Thanks, and over to you, Songok.
Thank you very much, Faith. Yeah, I think I remember there was such a communication because everything else was ready, but we were told to just hold on a bit. And thanks for just reminding me what the communication was, because I think it had escaped my mind. So thank you very much, Faith, for your response and your guidance. Right. So I don't know whether we still have any questions. We have about 10 minutes. And let me just quickly check. I don't know whether we still have any. Let me just quickly check here. Yeah, I think most of the most of the questions have been responded to. So I think we can wrap it up. Let me take this opportunity to just appreciate all of us for attending. I can see we have quite a number of us who attended all our virtual series, which is really commendable. And we began by looking at how to support issues around patient retention and how to carry out the validation exercise using the Ushauri mobile application. I know all of us are aware that we started an exercise to just take account for all our all our clients who are receiving care in our public, private, and FBO facilities. So, and we had issues around how to make corrections, how to recall, and Ushauri came in handy in ensuring that some of those corrections are being made, and Ushauri also came in handy in ensuring that we seamlessly carry out the verification exercise in non-EMR sites. So I think we talked about that, and more importantly, keep track of our patients and ensure that we keep everyone on treatment. So after that, we looked at, again, just discussed about how to monitor patient retention, how to keep track of appointments and trends using EMR. We looked at the RT directory. How can we keep track of our clients who keep moving from one place to another? How can we ensure that this client actually reached facility A where they wanted, or where probably they preferred to be referred to or to be linked to, and all that stuff. We also looked at the enhancements that have been done in Ushauri. We talked about integrated HTS module and the machine learning, and today we have crowned it all by looking at the lab manifest and the enhancements that have been put in there, and how to make orders in as far as our testing is concerned. And I think our focus majorly was around the viral load. Right. So I think basically, in summary, that's what our trainings covered. And as we come to the end, I also just want to quickly check whether all of us have been able to complete the training survey. Remember, I said your feedback is very key. It would help us in improving our future trainings. Tell us whether having 2 within a week is quite something. We can spread them. We can have it once in 2 weeks or once a week. Probably, if just tell us what you think would be more appropriate. I think your feedback really counts, and I'm really appealing to all of us to ensure that we complete that. So I want to just welcome Otieno for a minute to give us some quick feedback, just in case we have. I know. He probably is able to access dashboards on based on the responses that we have received. So Otieno, just very quickly, 1 minute as we close.
Yeah, thanks, Songok. I don't know if you are able to see the screen.
Yes, I'm able to see the screen, but hopefully you can enlarge it a bit. Yeah, just that's fine. You can proceed.
Yeah, so in summary, I think we have so far 21 responses from 172 participants. So I think Sengok, we still might need more responses, more feedback to come, so that we have a representative view of what our participants feel, so that we'll be able to make a correct decision based on the feedback that we receive. Yeah, so I don't know if you want me to go through all of that, but I think I just wanted to mention that we are at that number. Now I think we have 23 and they are still coming. So yeah, I think that's all I can share.
Okay, thank you, Chino. Yeah, you may not necessarily go through all because of time. Yeah, I can see the numbers are growing. We are at 24. So please, out of 170 plus, so you can still complete this. Just copy the link and paste it on your laptop, and then complete it at the comfort of your desk. After this call, we will be able to share with you we'll share with you the feedback, and remember, some of this can also be shared through our YouTube channel, just like we do, or just like we've done for the previous trainings, right? So I think for me, I really do not have much to say, and I want to just look out for whether Dr. Madiba was able to join. I know he was in another meeting. All right, so it seems like he's still held up. So because of time, allow me to just welcome Faith Ndare to make some few remarks and close the meeting for us. So for me, again, once more, thank you very much for finding time to attend this particular training and attending all the trainings that we've been able to organize. We'll keep you posted once we agree on which other areas. And again, what will inform our upcoming trainings is your feedback. So tell us the other areas that you want us to cover in as far as our digital solutions is concerned. We will be able to respond to your requests. So from me, thank you very much, and be blessed. Over to you, Faith.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Songok, for the opportunity. I believe Dr. Madiba is not able to join the session because of other engagements, but one of the things I really want to appreciate is the team that has been able to stay with us for the period. It's about a month, I would call it a month, because it's been 3 running weeks, yeah? And we have had lots of good engagements, lots of good attendance, though looks towards the end, the numbers were coming down. And maybe Otieno, as you look at the responses, remember there are people who are probably in a group. So I don't know whether they are answering as one person or as that facility. So these are some of the considerations that you look at when you look at a denominator of 174. But I really appreciate, we might be seeing 174, but I think we are being had by more than 174 because of the teamwork. So thank you very much. I will not repeat what Tongok has already said, where we started and where we have come to. And for me, I think is to appreciate the value of technology. It's making us be able to share knowledge in a more cheaper and more affordable way. And I think it's a time for us to embrace it. I know face-to-face and physical meetings are equally good, of course, for the motivation element and the fact that you're going to meet your colleagues. But again, we have to adapt to the evolving world where technology is going to be part of us. And so because of that value addition, we really appreciate, and thank you to the team that prepared the materials. That's the Palladium team. We are more than grateful for the work, and we look forward to having more sessions like this. From your responses, we'll be able to evaluate and see what suits you best and probably be a little bit more innovative. And more so even look at those people who have faithfully attended. Is there a way we can have a motivational thing to make sure that there are people who attended from the first session to the last session? And also, you can talk forever, but you really don't know whether people are grasping what you're really speaking. So we'll also look at means to be able to evaluate the knowledge sharing that has been done. So we really appreciate the work, And thank you very much for the active participation and the clarification. It's not the end, it's only a beginning. So keep your comments coming. And I like the team, the help desk team has been able to share all the means through which you can send your comments, send your questions and clarifications, and definitely you'll be able to get a response. So on behalf of my team lead, Dr. Madiba, and the entire NASCOP family, we thank you all, and we look forward to interacting more on this platform. Otherwise, I do wish you all a beautiful Easter holiday and God's blessing as you continue to share with the rest of your family members. Thank you, and back to you, Songok, for our prayer.
All right. Thank you very much, Faith. So it's 2 minutes to top of the hour. I really don't want to take much of our time. I want to request my brother Andrew Oyugi to kindly pray for us. So Oyugi, let me just allow you the mic. Andrew, kindly pray for us as we close.
All right, let's pray. Great and loving Father, we want to thank you for the gift of life. We want to thank you for all that you've been able to do for us since we started this training up to this end. We want to thank you for our facilitators, Palladium, that have been very faithful to us in taking us through the training. And we wish them that they continue enriching us with the knowledge. We also want to thank NASCOP and all the donors for their support in this. We hope that, Lord, you will continue giving us the energy and the ego in terms of implementing what we have learned. As we depart, we ask you for journey mercies, those who are traveling to their homes, but Lord, they may reach well. We ask all this, believing and trusting in the mighty name of Jesus.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a blessed evening, everyone. Bye.
Bye.